Hi guys, it's Katie. I just thought we would go over how to use Papertrail to the maximum extent possible and really get a lot of info out of Papertrail and using it. So anyway, on this effort, I have preset a couple things up. I have two rigs running right now. One is called Koozie and one is called JoJo. So they're both logged in on terminal. I have them SSH'd in, but they're both sitting right here. So they're right by the pump. We'll have good tuning while we're at it. But they're logged in, and you can see right now we're watching the pump loop go by. They're scrolling through and going through things. But I also have set up Papertrail on these two rigs. And so I wanted you to take a look at setting up Papertrail and how you use it on yours. Basically, the directions for setting up Papertrail are under the Monitoring OpenAPS section. If you go to that section, it'll have a link to the Papertrail setup. You can click on that, and it will take you into how to set up Papertrail on your rigs. Basically, Papertrail is free for the first month, costs about $5 a month after that, and it's a way of viewing the logs of what's going on in your rig without necessarily having to log in and check them on your computer. So you can set it up. It's all basically cut and paste. The instructions are all there. It's pretty simple. It takes maybe 10-15 minutes to set up Papertrail. But once you get it set up, there's a couple things you want to do to optimize your Papertrail use. And that's the part I want to focus on today, is how you can really get the most out of Papertrail. So I have Papertrail set up on these two. They are feeding this test OpenAPS site. And we can see the pills are there. Both rigs are going. The information is feeding. So it's all on there. And what the Papertrail looks like is if you go to the dashboard, you can see the names of the two rigs, Koozie and JoJo. But there's also a third part, and it's called localhost. And we're going to get back to that. But the part I want to focus on right now is just the important thing is all of your information, the valuable information, is going to be underneath the names of your rigs versus localhost. If you click on localhost, a lot of times it uploads. On this particular one, it's not uploading anything worthwhile because I have it turned off. But if you were loading, say for example, thank you, I'm going to go to hers. If you click localhost and see these people, mostly what you see is a whole bunch of version and the RF spy things, and it's really not that useful. So I just wanted to kind of show you. Localhost has some stuff, but it's really not worth looking at. So going back to my rigs here. So that's one thing. The first thing I recommend doing is setting up a filter. Is you're going to want to set up what they call an account filter, and basically you're going to go to log destinations under your settings. You're going to go to log filters, and you're going to set up things that you don't want coming in. So it's underneath here. There are examples for setting this up. There's instructions. You're going to want to add some log filters. The three that I recommend are cron, libmraa, if it has a pronunciation, it's beyond me, and sudo. Mostly because those ones really don't add to your troubleshooting or information, and they spit out a whole lot of lines of information that you really don't need counting against your data cap. So I have those three blocked. I also really don't like my localhost flow, so I have those blocked because I just don't want to bother with them. You don't have to do that. You don't have to do any of these, but it makes the view of your logs coming in a little bit cleaner. So you can add all of those and save them. And this filter, this log filter, keeps the information from coming in. This setting here, by having localhost on, it prevents it from even uploading. So that keeps it from counting against my data cap. It just doesn't even make it into my logs, which is how I want it for these ones. So I can cancel out of here. I'm going to go back to my dashboard. So that's a log filter. That keeps things out. The next thing we want to talk about is saved filters. So we saved log filters, but the other thing too that's really important in realizing is that the way that the data comes into your Papertrail is simply a chronological order of all your logs that you've established. And when you set up Papertrail, it's taking network logs, it's taking Night Scout logs, it's taking CGM logs, pump loop, auto sense, auto tune. So there's a bunch of different logs that are all included in the setup. For example, I'm going to go back up here. All of these logs are being captured and uploaded to your Papertrail account, but they're all being captured and uploaded in chronological order. So the problem is if something's going wrong and you take a screenshot and post online to try and get help, the chances are that most of the screen is filled with less than valuable information. So what you want to do is narrow it down so that you're getting to the part that you're really interested in. And this is the big important part. Most of the time that's going to be your pump loop, okay? 99% of the time it's your pump loop. So what you're going to want to do is make life easy on yourself and set up an easy way to get to the important information. And that's where setting up some filters comes in, search filters I call them, but if you go into say koozie, let's say this rig, and I want to do a filter, or you could start with events, you can start any way you want, but let's say I come here and I say, okay, I know I have both rigs uploading to this, all the different types of logs, but I really only want to see koozie's pump log. So I'm going to put in koozie pump loop, koozie-pump loop, because that matches how this is set up, koozie pump loop, and I'm going to search. And what you'll notice is it automatically search filters. It search filters for only those lines that are uploaded that includes koozie and pump loop, excuse me. So that's this. Wow, that's super valuable. If 99% of our information is going to come from looking at the pump loop, this is an important one to save. So you can go ahead and press the Save Search button down here. Call it a new search. Call it your rig's name and pump, perhaps. That's just an idea. You can call it whatever you want. You save the search. So that's super helpful. So if I said 99% of the time it's from the pump loop, the 1% of the time, or maybe 10% of the time, depending on the issues that you have going on, it's a network issue. So it's Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, not catching or doing something like that. That's going to show on your network log. So this time, let's search for koozie and network. Now we can see koozie's network connections. We can see their online or F0 online cron is running, and every minute or so it's checking my Wi-Fi connection, my IP address is on here. This is another useful search to save. So I'm going to create a new search. I'm going to call it koozie network or koozie Wi-Fi or whatever you want to call it. I'm going to save it. And where these searches are being saved is if you go back to your dashboard, they're going to be on the right-hand side. So there's koozie network, there's koozie pump. If you click on those, it'll take you right to that same filter. So this is a huge tool. I recommend everybody do this, is set up searches for each of your rigs for at least the pump and network. They're super useful. So let's do the same for JoJo. We could click on JoJo, which does apply a filter for JoJo, but in order to save it, let's just go ahead and say JoJo pump loop. And we're going to search. There's JoJo's pump loop. We're going to save the search. I'm going to say JoJo pump. And now I'm going to save one for JoJo network. Let's search it. Fantastic. Let's save it. Let's call it JoJo network. Save the search. Awesome. So now we have some really useful searches that can just be picked up and and done. So if you find that your loop is failing for some reason, your rig's not working, the first thing I recommend you do is you go to Papertrail. If you have it set up, go to Papertrail, click on the rig that you wonder about and the pump filter. So click there and say, wow, why isn't it working? So this is the screen that you would want to share with people online or look at yourself to say, what the heck is going on? So you can pause it if you want. You can pause your loop and you can go back in time and look at things. Look for something that seems unusual. Generally speaking, if you're seeing a lot of colors and you're not seeing error messages go by, it'll be really good. Your pump loop will start with a phrase that says starting super microbolus pump loop, and it ends at one that says completed, which is usually way down there, and then it'll say completed. So it takes a while to do a whole pump loop. There's a lot of messages that go into it. One of the first things it starts with usually, so there, that is one whole pump loop. So we can see that pump loop took 3 minutes to complete. So just giving you an idea, all of this is one pump loop. It has to go to your pump and get data and history. It has to compare that with the times. It has to look at carb impacts. It gets fresh blood glucose data. And it verifies whether or not the temp basal was received and sent and all of that kind of stuff. So it takes a while to run through. I can tell you that these rigs are newly on. They've been off for a little bit. So one of the things I do notice is, if you see here, I do have one message that is kind of obvious that I have a problem. It's not really a problem, but it says carbs 0, reason not enough glucose data to calculate carb absorption. That's in the documentation for new pump loop users. So for example, you copy it in, you go down here, and one of the things it tells you is it goes through things that are errors and things that aren't errors. So this one is in there. For example, these messages, it says, nope, you need at least 36 blood glucose readings before the whole loop clears up and goes. So it actually can take 3 hours or so to get that particular message cleared out. But it doesn't mean it's not looping. It is looping. It is setting things. We can see that on the site. It's all enacting. It's setting temp basals. So all of that is great. So if your rig is failing, what kind of messages will you see? Well, unfortunately, for the purposes of this video, everything's working fine. So I'm going to go to one that recently wasn't working fine. And so, for example, this rig, let me go back and I'm going to do her pump loop for this particular rig. This one has a couple of the most common messages that show up for when your rig isn't working. This one here, this no acknowledgement from pump on wake up. Is it out of range or is the battery too low? Obviously this is trying to send you a message. It's saying that the pump and the rig aren't communicating. The rig is trying, the pump isn't answering. The usual, most common reasons for the rig not answering is because it's too far away or the battery is low. This other message here, this could not get state or the RF SPI state or version, have you got the right port or device or radio type. This message, not as common, but typically this one happens when something on the Explorer board goes wrong. So I'm going to show you, we're going to go back here to the Papertrail link. At the bottom here, troubleshooting. Basically, if you come to this doc, it'll give you some ideas about the messages that you see and whether or not they're good messages, bad messages, what you should do about them. That RGB message about have you got the right port or device right here. Typically, the reasons I've seen it is either the Explorer board is going bad or the Explorer board needs to be reflashed. So you can reflash it. It's really simple. It's about 5 lines of cut and paste. But the easiest way to notice it is you'll have 2 little lights that stay on. So anyway, the link for fixing that is right here. You can go to that link and I'll tell you how to do it. Another common issue that you might see, I'm going to go back up here, is git lock. So I'm going to blow this up just a little bit. But one of the other common error messages talks about unable to create a .git index lock file exists, you need to delete it or make sure no other processes are running. That's an error message. When you see these file callouts that go on and on and on in the pump loop, and then at the end will be predominantly the error message. So if you see those, the git lock is a really simple issue to fix. You just do this line right here. That will delete the git repository, and it will automatically rebuild itself as part of the loop. So basically, it's kind of like a file got corrupted, it can't get overwritten, it locks up. So by clearing out that locked up file, you'll be able to start looping again. So I think those are the 3 most common issues that you'll see. Is your pump will be having poor tuning, won't be communicating. It'll give you that out of range, where is it, is the pump battery low message, the git lock, or a problem with the radio on the Explorer board. So now that you know those, I'm going to go back to this. Which one do I want to go to? But those are the important ones. I think that's good. Save your filter searches. Oh, one of the other ones I like to do. Let's go back, actually. That's a good one. Let's go back to adjust as a filter. If you go to adjust, this actually tells you what your auto sense is doing for you. It's pretty cool. If you do adjust, you can see what auto sense, let me see, pull that up. So you can see what it's doing. It's adjusting my targets because that's enabled from 90 to 82, and the targets are going from 90, which is what her normal target is, to 82, and max VG, all of that. You can also see in here if the sensitivity, insulin sensitivity is being adjusted or other things. This is one I definitely also recommend saving, because it will tell you which direction AutoSense is sending you in, which is really good. So if you're kind of finding yourself going high or low unexpectedly, and you're saying, wow, I thought I adjusted my settings, go and look at what AutoSense is doing in addition to what you did. And if it's going in the wrong direction, maybe you want to consider doing something else. Or if you want it to be more aggressive, less aggressive, you might adjust your preferences, the multipliers. So anyway, that's another good saved one. Another filter you might want to consider adding, we'll do one more, is, let's say for example, let's pick one of the rigs, Koozie, Pump Loop, Tune. This will tell you, so if you're coming up with that one message about, is your battery too low? No, it hasn't tuned yet. Is your battery too low? Is your pump out of range? If you do an Tune search, this will tell you whether or not it's out of range. Anything that says 0 minus 99 in this part, that means something's going on with your pump. The battery's low, it's too far away, your Explorer board might be bad. If your Explorer board and pump have to be only inches away to work, your Explorer board is likely bad. So basically, these should not have to be this close to work. They should work across the room. Basically, so you can get a result of these. I usually save Tunes because I like to periodically check how those are doing. Jojo Tune. You can save those. So you can build all those into it. Tune doesn't happen all the time, but if the rig notices that you are going for a long period of time where the communications seem poor, it will go ahead and retune and try and get communications start it again. It's going to say, well, maybe the old frequency that I was using wasn't so good. I'll try scanning and seeing if a new frequency would be better. So anyway, I hope that helps. Make sure you set up your searches so that when you come and start looking for what's going wrong, it'll help you get there quicker. Start with your pump tune. Start with your pump loop on the rig that is in question. Go to there and look through for the messages that might be telling you something. So if you see low battery, wrong radio comms, if you see a git lock error, those are the 3 most common. Anyway, hope that helps. See ya. I'm going to turn off now.